The cold hit harder when you had no name and nowhere to go. 14-year-old Marcus Hill lay curled under the old highway bridge, his backpack for a pillow and his dreams for a blanket. The night air bit through his hoodie. His stomach growled. He tried to ignore it. Across the street, glowing windows showed a world he couldn't reach. Kids his age doing homework, mothers calling out for dinner, fathers laughing at TV screens. Every light felt like a knife, cutting through the dark he called home. Marcus pulled out a small, crumpled notebook. Its pages were torn, the pencil nearly gone. On the first page he'd written in shaky letters, "One day, I'll go to school again." He flipped through the pages, full of math problems he copied from library books, words he taught himself to spell. When he couldn't eat, he learned. When he couldn't sleep, he dreamed. "You gonna freeze out here, boy?" a voice croaked nearby. Marcus looked up. Old Sam, the man who slept 2 spots over, shuffled closer with a half-empty blanket. His beard was white, his eyes tired but kind. "I'm okay," Marcus muttered. "You keep it," Sam chuckled. "You kids always think you tougher than the cold." "You ain't," Marcus smiled weakly. "Maybe I'm tougher than hunger." The old man sighed, lowering himself onto a crate. "What you doing with that notebook anyway?" "Ain't no school out here." Marcus stared at the pages. "One day there will be. I'm gonna finish school. Be somebody." Sam nodded slowly, looking out at the traffic lights. "Keep that fire, son. Don't let the world blow it out." They sat in silence, listening to the cars pass above them. Each sound of tires on wet pavement felt like a heartbeat. The city alive, uncaring, moving on without them. The next morning, Marcus woke to shouting. 2 city workers were clearing the bridge, tossing old blankets and bags into a truck. Sam argued, his voice cracking. "We ain't bothering nobody. Leave our things be." "City orders," one man snapped. "This whole area's getting cleaned up." Marcus scrambled to grab his backpack before it disappeared. Inside was everything he owned. A few clothes, a photo of his mother, and that old notebook. He stuffed it tight against his chest as a worker reached for it. "Hey, that's mine." The man sneered. "Kid like you shouldn't be here anyway. Shelter's downtown." "Go there." Marcus backed away, shaking. "I'm fine here." "Fine?" The man looked around at the trash and broken bottles. "This ain't living, boy. You're a ghost in this city." Marcus didn't answer. He just ran, across the street, through the alleys, until the noise faded and his breath came out in clouds. He stopped behind an old diner, clutching his bag like it held his life. Inside, warmth and smell of bacon filled the air. He pressed his face to the glass. Kids his age sat in booths with pancakes and hot chocolate. He smiled faintly, imagining himself there, backpack full of books instead of torn clothes. Then he noticed her, a woman in a gray coat sitting alone by the window, watching him. Not judging, watching. Her eyes followed him as he tried to look away. He'd seen that look before. Pity. He hated pity. But then she did something strange. She stood up, paid her bill, and walked outside. Marcus turned to leave, but she called softly. "Wait." He froze. "Are you hungry?" she asked. Her voice was calm, warm. Not the usual kind that talked at him, but to him. He said nothing. She smiled gently. "Come inside. Just one meal." "No strings." Marcus looked past her into the diner. The lights, the smell, the normal life he'd been locked out of. His stomach growled again. He wanted to say no. But for the first time in a long time, hope whispered louder than pride. So he nodded and stepped through the door. He didn't know it yet, but that one step, that one meal, was about to change everything. The diner was warm in a way that hurt. After months on the street, warmth felt too good, like something he didn't deserve. Marcus stood just inside the door, afraid to move further. The smell of eggs and toast filled his lungs. Every sound, forks clinking, people laughing, it made him feel smaller. The woman in the gray coat smiled softly. "Come on," she said, gesturing to a booth by the window. "You can sit here." He hesitated, glancing at the waitress, expecting her to wave him out. But the waitress only nodded and brought over a glass of water. Marcus slid into the booth. His hands were shaking. He hadn't sat at a table like this in over a year. The woman looked at him carefully, not with pity, but with quiet curiosity. "I'm Rebecca Moore," she said. "And you are?" "Marcus," he whispered. "Marcus Hill. That's a strong name," she said kindly. "So, Marcus, when was the last time you had a real meal?" He shrugged. "Can't remember," she smiled gently. "Then let's fix that." Rebecca called the waitress. "Get him pancakes, extra syrup, and hot chocolate, the real kind, not the packet one." Marcus tried to protest. "You don't gotta do all that." "I want to," she said simply. "Everyone deserves a warm breakfast." When the food came, Marcus stared at the plate. It looked like something out of a dream. Golden pancakes stacked high, butter melting slowly. He picked up the fork, but paused. "You really sure?" Rebecca laughed softly. "I've never been more sure." He took a bite. The sweetness hit his tongue, and for a second his eyes closed. Tears stung before he could stop them. Rebecca noticed, but said nothing. She just let him eat. After a while she asked, "Where do you stay, Marcus?" He hesitated. "Under the bridge on Westfield." "With some others," she nodded slowly, her eyes softening. "That's no place for a boy." He looked down. "Ain't much choice. I tried the shelter, but they were full. Said I was too young for some and too old for others." Rebecca's jaw tightened. "Too young to be forgotten. Too old to be protected. That's not right." Marcus sipped his hot chocolate. "It's whatever. I'll figure it out. What about school?" she asked quietly. He looked out the window. "Used to go, before Mom got sick. When she died, I bounced around. No address, no ID. You can't go to school if you don't exist." Rebecca's heart clenched. "You want to go back, don't you?" He nodded slowly. "Yeah, every night I read old books I find. I want to be somebody, Miss Rebecca. But I ain't even got a birth certificate." She leaned forward, voice steady. "What if I could help you get one?" Marcus frowned. "Why would you do that?" Rebecca smiled softly. "Because somebody once helped me when I was where you are now." He blinked. "You?" She nodded. "I wasn't homeless, but I was lost. A teacher saw me, believed in me when nobody else did. That teacher changed my life." Marcus studied her, unsure if he could trust this stranger who spoke with such calm confidence. Rebecca looked out the window, watching the traffic pass. "Sometimes, Marcus, God doesn't fix the storm. He just sends someone to walk through it with you." They sat in silence for a moment. Marcus couldn't find the words, but something inside him, a quiet, forgotten spark, began to flicker again. Rebecca stood, dropping a few bills on the table. "I have to go to work, but I'll be back tomorrow morning, same time. Be here, okay?" Marcus looked up. "You mean it?" She nodded. "We'll start fixing things, one step at a time." He didn't know if he believed her. People always said things they didn't mean, but something about her eyes told him she wasn't lying, so he nodded. "Okay." When she left, he stared at the plate, still half full of pancakes. For the first time in a long time, Marcus didn't just feel full. He felt seen. But what he didn't know was that Rebecca Moore wasn't just a kind stranger. She was someone with power, and a secret that would change Marcus's life forever. Marcus showed up at the diner before sunrise the next morning. He didn't sleep much that night. The cold had crept through the holes in his shoes, but his mind was too busy replaying Rebecca's words. "We'll start fixing things, one step at a time." He wasn't sure if she'd really come back. Most people didn't. People made promises to kids like him because it made them feel good. Then they forgot by morning. But when the sun began to rise, a familiar gray coat appeared through the diner window. She was back. Rebecca smiled when she saw him. "Morning, Marcus." "You came." He tried not to smile, but he did anyway. "Told you I would," she nodded proudly. "Good, because I meant what I said." They sat down at the same booth as yesterday. The waitress didn't even ask this time. She brought pancakes and 2 cups of hot chocolate with extra marshmallows. Rebecca leaned forward. "Marcus, I have something to tell you." He froze. People usually said that before bad news, but her eyes were calm, kind, but serious. "I told you I used to be lost, remember?" "Yeah," he said quietly. I wasn't just lost, she continued. I ran away from home when I was 15. My mother was sick, my dad was gone, and I thought the streets were easier. Marcus looked up sharply. You were homeless too? She nodded. For almost a year. Slept behind stores, under bridges, just like you. People walked past me like I was invisible. Until one woman stopped. Who? A social worker named Mrs. Harris. She didn't just give me food, she gave me a future. She helped me get my ID, my school papers, everything I needed to start over. Marcus stared at her. So, that's what you want to do for me? Yes, she said softly. If you'll let me. He looked down at his cracked hands. Why me? There's a bunch of kids out here. You could have picked anyone. Rebecca smiled gently. Maybe because I saw myself in you. And maybe because I've been looking for a reason to do something that matters again. He frowned. What do you mean? She hesitated for a moment, then sighed. I'm not just some lady at a diner, Marcus. I'm the director of the Riverside Youth Foundation. We help kids get off the streets and back into school. Marcus froze, his fork halfway to his mouth. Wait. You... Rebecca leaned forward. That's what I want to change. You're exactly the kind of person we should be helping. Marcus didn't know what to say. His throat felt tight. So, you could really help me get into school again? Not just school, Rebecca said. A place to live. Clean clothes. Real meals. Everything you need to start over. He shook his head in disbelief. That sounds too good to be true, she smiled sadly. It sounded that way to me too, when someone said it to me. He wanted to believe her. He really did. But hope was a dangerous thing when you'd lost everything. What if it doesn't work? He asked. Then we try again, Rebecca said firmly. But we start today. She pulled a small folder from her bag and slid it across the table. Inside were papers, forms, and an ID photo with his name written at the top. Marcus Hill. He stared at it, eyes wide. You already did this? She nodded. I spent last night at my office. You have a temporary student ID. You start school Monday. Marcus blinked, shaking his head. School? Me? Rebecca smiled. You wanted to be somebody, right? Let's make that happen. He couldn't hold back the tears this time. I don't even know how to thank you. Rebecca reached across the table and took his hand. Just promise me one thing. When you make it, you help someone else the way I helped you. Deal. He nodded, voice trembling. Deal. They finished breakfast, and for the first time, Marcus didn't look out the window wishing to be inside. Because now, he was. He didn't know that beyond that diner door waited more than a new start. It waited for a test that would show the world just how far a promise could go. Monday morning felt like standing on the edge of a cliff. Marcus stood outside Jefferson Middle School, clutching the strap of his new backpack. His palms were sweaty, his stomach twisted in knots. It had been 2 years since he'd last sat in a classroom. Rebecca had dropped him off, her voice warm and steady. You belong here, Marcus. Don't let anyone tell you different. Now, standing alone at the front gate, those words felt heavy. Kids poured through the doors, laughing, shouting, faces clean, clothes new. He tugged at his thrift store hoodie, suddenly aware of every tear, every scuff on his shoes. Inside, the hallway buzzed with noise. Posters lined the walls. Science fair. This Friday. Be kind. Respect, everyone. Marcus smiled faintly at that last one. Respect everyone, he thought, unless they smell like the street. A teacher spotted him. You must be the new student. Marcus Hill, right? He nodded quickly. I'm Mr. Collins. Come on, I'll show you around. Mr. Collins was kind but rushed, walking fast through the halls. We're happy to have you, Marcus. Let's start you in Class 8B. When they entered, the classroom fell silent. 20 pairs of eyes turned toward him. Mr. Collins smiled. Everyone, this is Marcus. He just joined us, a few polite murmurs. One boy whispered something that made 2 girls giggle. Marcus stared at the floor. Go ahead and take that empty seat by the window, the teacher said. As he sat, someone behind him whispered, He smells like smoke. His throat tightened. He wanted to disappear. When the bell rang for lunch, Marcus went straight outside. He sat under a tree with his sandwich, the first school lunch he'd had in years. He didn't care if it was cold. It tasted like hope. A shadow fell across his tray. "Hey," a voice said. He looked up. A girl stood there. Brown skin, neat braids, curious eyes. She wore a badge that said, "Student Helper." "I'm Tiana," she said. "You're the new kid, right?" "Yeah. You used to live near Westfield?" she asked softly. "I've seen you before. At the library sometimes." Marcus nodded. "Yeah, that was me," she smiled. "You always looked busy, writing in that notebook." His face warmed. It's just stuff I learned from books." Tiana sat down beside him. "You like school?" He shrugged. "I used to. Feels weird being back," she tilted her head. "You're brave for coming. Most kids wouldn't." Brave. That word felt strange. He didn't feel brave, just lost in a world that had moved on without him. Before he could answer, a loud voice shouted, "Hey, new kid!" A tall boy approached. Ryan, the kind everyone else followed. "You the one that came from the shelter?" Marcus froze. "No, Ryan grinned. "Heard you used to sleep under a bridge. That true?" Tiana stood up. "Leave him alone, Ryan," Ryan laughed. "I'm just asking." "Don't get mad, library girl." Marcus clenched his fists but stayed quiet. He'd learned long ago that fighting back just gave people what they wanted. Ryan smirked. "Didn't think so." He walked away with his friends laughing. Tiana looked at Marcus, worried. "You okay?" He forced a smile. "Yeah, I've been through worse." She hesitated, then said, "Come to the library after school. It's quiet there. You can study." Marcus nodded, grateful. "Thanks." As she left, he looked down at his tray and whispered, "One day, they'll see who I really am." That night, he walked back to the youth center Rebecca had arranged. For the first time, he had a bed and a small desk by the window. He opened his notebook and wrote, "Today, I went back to school. It hurt, but maybe the hurt means I'm alive again." He smiled faintly, unaware that soon, the same school that mocked him would be the place where his hidden gift and Rebecca's secret would come to light. Marcus sat in the back row of English class, pretending to take notes. It had been 3 weeks since he started school again. The early excitement had faded, replaced by long stares, whispered jokes, and the constant feeling that he didn't belong. Still, every morning he showed up. "Homework essays, everyone," Mr. Collins said, walking between desks. "Today's topic, if I could change one thing in the world." Students groaned and started reading their papers. When it was Marcus's turn, Mr. Collins said kindly, "Marcus, would you like to share yours?" Marcus froze. He hadn't planned to read it aloud. The thought of everyone staring made his stomach twist. Tiana turned from the next row and whispered, "You got this." He looked down at the paper. Smudged pencil, shaky handwriting. But the words were his truth. He took a deep breath and began. "If I could change one thing in the world," he read softly, "I'd give every kid a place to feel safe. Not just walls and beds, but a place where they know they matter. Some nights, when you're cold and alone, you start believing the world forgot you. But what if one person remembered? What if one person stopped and said, 'You're not invisible'? That could change everything." The room was silent. When he finished, he looked up slowly. Even Ryan, the boy who mocked him, wasn't laughing. Mr. Collins blinked hard, his voice catching. "That was beautiful, Marcus." A few students clapped quietly. Then the bell rang, and the sound broke the spell. As the class emptied, Mr. Collins stopped Marcus. "Where did you learn to write like that?" Marcus shrugged. "Just books, libraries," the teacher smiled. "You have a gift. Don't waste it." That afternoon, Tiana ran to him at lunch. "Marcus, you're trending." He frowned. "What?" She held up her phone. "Mr. Collins shared your essay on the school website. Said it was the most powerful thing he's ever read. People are sharing it online." Marcus stared at the screen. His words, the ones he'd written alone under that bridge, were being read by strangers across the city. Comments flooded in. "This kid's heart is gold. Find him a scholarship. Someone get this boy a future." He didn't know what to feel. That night, Rebecca showed up at the youth center holding a newspaper. On the front page, homeless teen's essay touches thousands. She beamed. "You did it, Marcus. The mayor's office called my foundation. They want to meet you." He blinked. "Meet me? Why?" Rebecca sat beside him. "Because you reminded people what humanity looks like. You made them feel." Marcus shook his head. "I just told the truth." She smiled. "Exactly. The truth is what changes people." 2 days later, Marcus found himself in a large hall filled with news cameras and officials. Rebecca stood next to him, whispering, "You're ready." A woman from the mayor's office stepped up to the microphone. "Marcus Hill, your words have inspired this city. Today, we are proud to grant you the first City Hope Scholarship. A full ride through high school and college." Applause thundered. Marcus couldn't move. The world that once ignored him was now clapping for him. When it was his turn to speak, he took the mic and said softly, "I don't want to be famous. I just want to prove that kids like me can do something. We don't need pity. We need a chance." The crowd rose to their feet. Rebecca wiped her tears. She had seen broken souls before, but Marcus was something else. He was proof that light could live even under bridges. What neither of them knew yet was that the biggest change was still coming. A truth about Rebecca's past that would turn both their lives upside down. The night after the award ceremony, Marcus couldn't sleep. He lay awake in his small room at the youth center, the scholarship certificate resting on the nightstand beside him. The world had changed overnight. Cameras, interviews, invitations. But inside, he still felt like the boy under the bridge. His phone buzzed. It was a message from Rebecca. "Can you meet me at the diner tomorrow morning? I need to tell you something important." The next day, Marcus arrived early. The smell of coffee and pancakes reminded him of the first morning they'd met, when he was hungry, scared, and alone. Rebecca was already sitting in their booth, but this time her smile was faint. Her hands trembled as she stirred her coffee. "Hey," Marcus said softly. "You okay?" She looked up, her eyes red. "Marcus, there's something I've been meaning to tell you. I should have said it sooner," he frowned. "What is it?" Rebecca took a deep breath. "You remember how I said I ran away when I was 15? "Yeah," she swallowed hard. "Before I ran away, I lived in Westfield, the same neighborhood you were born in." Marcus blinked. "Wait, how do you know where I was born?" Her voice cracked. "Because I was there the night your mother got sick." Marcus froze. Rebecca continued, her voice shaking. "She used to volunteer at the shelter where I stayed. She was the only one who didn't treat me like trash. She'd bring food, clean clothes, always smiling even when she was tired. She talked about her little boy all the time, said his name was Marcus." Tears filled Marcus's eyes. "My mom helped you?" Rebecca nodded. "Yes, one night she came to the shelter coughing bad. I tried to get her to see a doctor, but she refused. Said she couldn't afford it. She pressed her hand into mine and said, 'If I can't make it, promise me you'll do something kind for someone who needs it most.'" Rebecca's voice broke completely. "I ran away the next morning. By the time I came back, she was gone. I never forgot her face, or her words. And when I saw you outside that diner months ago, I saw her eyes again." Marcus covered his face with his hands. You knew my mom." Rebecca nodded, tears running down her cheeks. "I didn't realize it was her son until I found your name on the papers. That's why I had to help you, Marcus. Not just because I could, but because I owed her. She saved me before I ever got a chance to save myself." Marcus's chest ached. All this time, he thought Rebecca was a stranger, but she'd been a piece of his mother's story all along. After a long silence, he said softly, "Then I guess she did keep her promise." Rebecca looked up. Confused, Marcus smiled through tears. "She told you to help someone who needed it most." "You did." Rebecca reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "No, Marcus. You're the one who kept her promise. You turned pain into purpose. You gave her kindness back to the world. Outside, The morning light spilled through the diner windows, warm and golden, the same light that had once felt so far away. Marcus took a deep breath and said, "Then let's make this bigger. Not just for me, for kids like me. For people like my mom," Rebecca smiled, wiping her tears. "I already started the paperwork last night. It'll be called the Hill Foundation, named after her." He laughed softly. "She'd like that." They sat there for a long time, two souls bound by a promise made years apart, finally keeping it together. Epilogue. Months later, Marcus stood on a stage, high school diploma in hand. Cameras flashed again, but this time he wasn't nervous. Rebecca watched from the front row, her eyes full of pride. When he spoke, his voice was strong. "People ask me how I made it here. I tell them, I didn't, we did. Because one person stopped to care, one person saw me when I was invisible. And sometimes, that's all it takes to change a life." The crowd stood and clapped. Rebecca whispered under her breath, "You did it, Marcus." And as he looked up toward the sky, Marcus smiled, because somewhere, beyond the clouds, beyond the pain, he knew his mother was smiling too. Morale. One small act of kindness can echo for years. You never know how far love travels or whose life it will save next.